So Draymond Green definitely expressed his thoughts on the TNT broadcast about the All-Star game format this year. Let's go ahead and take a listen.
I'm coaching some team, and she's right, some team that no one wants to see.
Oh, man.
I had to work so hard to play on Sunday night of All-Star weekend. And because ratings are down, because the game's bad, we're bringing in rising stars. That's not a fix.
Now, it's very interesting. Draymond talked about how hard guys have to work to get into the All-Star game because they definitely don't seem to care about all that effort they put in once they're there, since they seem to show that the game matters nothing to them when the actual effort they put on the court. But yeah, Draymond, go ahead, go off, because I wonder if part of the NBA's incentive of putting in these young players that don't deserve to be on the court with the OGs and the guys that have made their names by being All-Stars year-round, from fans that actually appreciate the game and want to see these guys perform against each other on the court in a competitive manner, is because of the fact that these same stars don't have the competitive fortitude to perform at least even at a marginal percentage of 75% of what they normally do during the regular season against each other like they do in summer runs. There's plenty of videos out there that we can find of players competing with one another during summer runs, and guys are knowledgeable on that court of how to play basketball without hurting each other. Obviously, if a guy's driving down the lane and you're not trying to get hurt, you're not going to step in and take a charge in an All-Star game, whatever the case may be, or go up and try and hard foul a guy, but you're going to make the game competitive. You're going to try and D up. You're actually going to play help defense, stop guys from getting just wide open lanes to the basket and stuff like that. Similar things you would do when you're playing basketball throughout the summer or when you're playing to stay in shape. But for some reason, with the actual sponsored event that is included in the NBA CBA, included in players' contracts in terms of the amount of All-Stars and contract incentives for making the All-Star team, for some reason when it comes to that game, all of a sudden guys can't put in the same amount of effort. Interesting. Very interesting.
But the NBA also has to do some things to make guys want to play. Like,
it's so funny that one of the things that Draymond immediately jumps to is that the NBA needs to find a fix for the All-Star games to make guys want to play. Outside of guys just having the natural desire to want to compete. It's not like them bringing out kids and having those kids sit front row for years and incentivizing the players with those kids representing different charities being an incentive enough to want to go out there and compete.
The annual event is not just for players, it's also special for a pair of local charities. The Boys and Girls Club of Indianapolis has been selected as the charity representing the West team, and the Special Olympics Indiana representing the East team during the NBA All-Star Game. Each team will start the game with $100,000 for their charities, but the winning team's charity gets an additional $240,000. According to the Boys and Girls Club of Indianapolis, this will be the largest fundraiser in the organization's history.
Nope, that wasn't enough. We're talking about basketball, one that, mind you, of all the major sports, outside of probably baseball, being the one that includes the least amount of physical contact and least risk of injury, and especially when guys know how to play the game without going so hard as to get hurt. It's one of those things that if you just have a freak injury, that's unfortunate, but it's not like you're playing in a rough manner such as NFL or even NHL, where guys are getting naturally inducing hard contact and stuff like that that leads to injury.
Up the money. Maybe you're tying home court advantage of the finals to the All-Star game.
Did
which
that
team
before,
wins?
I feel like
they do that. They do that in baseball.
Yeah, that's
or
yeah.
the Four Nations thing that the hockey's doing right now, where it's four nations against each other.
Really
up the money. Dr. J and the Big O want to talk to you.
Yeah, exactly.
They played 50 years ago. That's not our fault.
It's very hard for me to extend the same amount of leniency as I would those other sports because of the fact that you can actually. It's just so frustrating to hear this rant, mind you, because one thing that Draymond does is that he just won't criticize his own peers. Draymond will avoid saying that the players are the issue because he's one of them, and he's one of the big voices representing the players. And he will sit there and talk about what the NBA needs to do. The NBA needs to make guys want to play basketball. Want to actually compete? And so then when they wheel out 19-year-olds and rising stars out there, all of a sudden that's what lights the fire in you. But I didn't see Draymond on these national airwaves criticizing guys like LeBron James, Steph Curry, Kevin Durant, whomever, all the All-Stars you can think of over the last few years. And then Draymond wants to go on and talk about scoring records.
You work all year to be an All-Star, and you get to play up to 40, and then you're done. This is so unfair to Victor Wembanyama, who just took this game really seriously, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, who just took this game really seriously. When you talk about chasing after the points records, Melo and Kobe and all these guys who've had great scoring nights, they don't get the opportunity to do that with this game. Also, we can watch some rising stars. We're about to watch the Olympic team. Now we get the treat of watching the Olympic team play against a U19 team. Come on, what are we doing? This is ridiculous.
You mean fraudulent scoring records? Who was even playing defense at the time when y'all were going out there and scoring 40 or 50? It wasn't some impressive feat as a guy like Luka Doncic scoring 70 in the regular season, or Kobe when he scored his 81, or nothing like that. These All-Star game records are for freaking show and fraudulence. You just have your name in a book just for the sake of it, because nobody even gives credence to them, because nobody played defense on you for half of the points. Some guys are just walking up, launching threes, getting wide open dunks down the lane, easy layups, and you're expecting us to put some respect on scoring records in the All-Star game? It's a freaking joke.
10, your thoughts of the format?
10 being the best.
Yes.
A 0 sucks. Same basketball.
And it's sad that the NBA has to go to such lengths to try and bring out something in the players, right? And then Draymond wants to say he rates the All-Star game, as the All-Star game format this year, a 0 out of 10. Well, I rate the effort of the last decade, aside of when Kobe died, a 0. Outside of when Kobe died, that's probably the most memorable All-Star game we've gotten in the last decade of basketball that's been played in the All-Star game. But for some reason, all of a sudden, this is just evaporated from the cosmos of current basketball stars. I just don't even get it. And then you want to talk about, oh yeah, those guys played 50 years ago. Yeah, I bet they're annoyed because they're seeing you guys not take this for granted when you're getting paid way more. It's not just about a scenario being paid, them playing 50 years ago, whatever the case might be. They see y'all getting paid all this money with incentives, with a sponsored event. The money here collectively is also included in your CBA and the broadcasting agreement for the network that gets the broadcasting rights for this event. I like some of the suggestions. I'm not one that even believes this current All-Star game format is perfect or is without needing tuning or anything like that. I think there is adjustments that can be made. I have a lot of criticism for All-Star weekend, especially when it came to the game and what took place when the game starts, or the whole event, I guess, starts at 6 o'clock, and then the game, actual basketball, starts taking place at 8. And through that 3-hour period on, there were so many ads, so many bits and different segments that were done that just took up so much time. Only 30 or 40 minutes of basketball were actually televised versus 2.5 hours of just ads and segments and so on. So I do have conflict with the current format that they have. But the problem is, I don't want to hear from Draymond or half of these players telling me about all these things the NBA needs to do, when the first thing we need to talk about is the effort that players are putting in. It almost feels like you take the fans for granted, when the fans are the ones that, if they don't watch the sport, if your numbers go down, your rating, we're doing all this because the ratings are going down. The ratings going down kind of matters, don't you think? Because isn't the TV and broadcast deals that keep earning y'all more money, don't those play a role in the salaries that the players get paid? And so don't fans directly correlate in the amount of fans that are willing to pay to go see the events and the games? Don't they directly correlate to the players' pay? And I'm at least happy that Draymond was suggesting some things to help add more incentive, because it seems like without that, these guys just won't even try. But we actually saw competitive basketball this All-Star game, and the amount of games that we saw, because guys did have things on the line. And because it was a low scoring point total, you didn't have these affairs where guys are going to launch a crap ton of threes, and then we have to watch an All-Star game where a team's down like 30 or 40. All-Star game's a joke, not because of the NBA from my vantage point, but because of the players that partake in it, and they've been doing this for years. And it's just beyond the realm of accountability for them to try and flip that on the NBA, particularly Draymond Green. Because with a guy that has a platform like Draymond, especially him sitting there being one of the broadcasters, with the NBA, with the national audience watching this, and Draymond making it a dreadful watching experience for most of the viewing audience, it's just hilarious to me, him talking about all that, and then expecting fans to want to be engaged and watch that. My girlfriend literally told me that she only was watching the event because I was watching it, because obviously I cover this stuff. But outside of that, wasn't going to be watching the event. Guys, let me know what you guys think down in the comments.